violence will rapidly rise. Joe Biden and his bosses from the radical left want to significantly multiply what they're doing now. And what will be the end result is you will totally destroy the beautiful suburbs. Suburbia will be no longer as we know it. So they want to defund and abolish your police and law enforcement, while at the same time destroying our great suburbs. The suburb destruction will end with us. Next week, I will be discussing the AFFH rule. AFFH rule, a disaster. And our plans to protect the suburbs from being obliterated by Washington Democrats, by people on the far left that want to see the suburbs destroyed, that don't care. People have worked all their lives to get into a community, and now they're going to watch it go to hell. It's not going to happen, not while I'm here. The Biden-Bernie plan would also use the weapon of federal regulation to tie the hands of our police departments by abolishing cash bail. Think of that. Think of that. Bail. No problem. They killed somebody, let them out. Take a look at what's happening. Crime in New York City up 368% from just a short while ago. They got rid of a lot of police, and they're in the process of doing it $1 billion. They probably want to abolish. It's not even believable. When I first heard about it, when you first heard about it, you didn't think it was real. You didn't think it was believable. Just like the Green New Deal. How crazy is that? But they're actually trying to put it into play. It'll mean the end of this country. So by getting rid of bail, they are incentivizing jail and prison closures. They want to get rid of prisons. They don't think anybody should go to prison. Setting loose violent criminals, appointing left-wing social justice prosecutors, like you have in Philadelphia, where people creating and doing the most criminal of acts are let go, in many cases, immediately, and making our wonderful cops, our great, great police, cops, subordinate to distant bureaucrats who have never spent a day in their lives fighting crime. Unlike the socialists, we believe in the rule of the people, not the rule of the unelected bureaucrats that don't know what they're doing. We believe in the dignity of the individual, not the iron grip of the state. Our regulatory reforms are vital, not only to the success of our economy, but the strength of our democracy and the survival of liberty itself. My administration will continue pressing forward until we have made every last vestige of Washington fully, completely, and totally accountable to the citizens of the United States. We are putting our faith in the workers who power our country, the doctors who care for our country, the truckers who sustain our country, and the farmers and ranchers who preserve our country in all of its majestic beauty. The American people are the ones who made our nation great, and together we will make it greater by far than ever before. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. We must have said something right. I guess we said it absolutely right. It's about our country. It's about our country. We want to be strong. We want to respect everybody, but we have to have strong law enforcement, and that's taking place in the areas that we're responsible for. We want others to call us for help. There's nothing wrong. Let Chicago call. let Seattle call. We were going into Seattle, all set to go, and then they did it themselves. They heard we were coming in, and the hands went up. They gave up. I mean, it's so terrible when you see what's happening. Minneapolis, we said, get the Guard in there. 3 nights, get the Guard in, get the Guard. We got the Guard in. The National Guard, they've done a fantastic job. As soon as they showed up, it was like a knife cutting through butter. You saw that, right? After 4 days of horror. It wasn't the police's fault in any of these places. They were told to leave. The police are, generally speaking, they do a great job. They were told to leave. But you saw what happened. Minneapolis, grab your gun and run. That's not what they wanted to do. But the National Guard came in, and we did a great job. No problem after that, do you notice? We just passed a statues and monument executive order, and they were going wild. They see that beautiful, look at it right there, it's so beautiful, the Washington Monument. If they had their choice, they'd take it down, and I guarantee you they'd rename it. They want to rename it. They want George Washington out. They want Thomas Jefferson out. They want Abraham Lincoln out. They want abolitionists out. They don't know what they want. They just want to destroy our country. We're not going to let it happen. We're not letting it happen. So I'd now like to ask Vice President Mike Pence to say a few words. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a privilege to be with you today. Thank you for bringing together all these great, hardworking Americans, to be able to hear their stories, to be able to reflect on the fact that before the coronavirus hit our country, thanks to your leadership, we built the strongest economy in the history of the world. In 3 short years, Mr. President, you kept your promise to the American people. We cut taxes across the board. You fought for free and fair trade. You unleashed American energy. And you rolled back regulations to help all Americans. And after 40 years of over-regulation, Mr. President, you delivered 4 years of regulatory freedom. And in our first 3 years, the results were extraordinary. Businesses large and small created 7 million new jobs. Wages rose at their fastest pace. In more than 10 years, 2 million Americans were lifted out of poverty, 7 million Americans lifted off of food stamps, and the highest median income in the history of our country. And Mr. President, as you just reflected, a centerpiece of that was lifting red tape off the American people and American free enterprise. I remember those days in the campaign 4 years ago when you promised that for every new regulation, we'd eliminate 2 rules off the Federal Register. But as you just said, Mr. President, for every new regulation put on the books, you actually repealed nearly 8 regulations off of the American people and the American economy. And this president has already signed more bills rolling back federal red tape than any president in American history. They tell us that we've saved $220 billion in our economy, and as you said, more than $3,100 for every American household. And beyond all of that, the regulatory reform now has America as the largest supplier of oil and natural gas in the world and a net exporter of energy for the first time in 75 years. That's what your deregulation agenda delivered. And today, Mr. President, as we continue to respond to the coronavirus pandemic, at your direction, we're ensuring that our states, our hospitals, and our extraordinary healthcare workers have not only the supplies they need, but the freedom and the flexibility to give every American the same level of care that each one of us would want a family member to have. And as we meet this moment in this pandemic, we're also opening up America again. It's extraordinary to think, Mr. President, at the height of this pandemic, our economy had lost 22 million jobs, but because of the strong foundation that you laid of less taxes and less regulation, in 2 short months, May and June saw record-breaking job creation. We've already added 7 million jobs back to the American economy. And we're just getting started. This record job growth, Mr. President, is a tribute to the resilience of the American people, strength of their character. It's a resilience to your leadership, to the agenda that you advanced in our first 3 years. But as you said, Mr. President, it's also a tribute to governors across the country who not only supported your agenda, but also in more than 30 states, governors actually delivered on that same agenda of less taxes and less regulation. And while I've been leading the White House Coronavirus Task Force, it's also been my honor, Mr. President, to lead the governor's initiative on regulatory innovation and to work with these extraordinary governors. The truth is, because of your leadership and example, governors across the country have been reducing the burden of regulations at the state level. And that's what's contributed to the strong foundation on which we are standing, and the American recovery has already begun. Fortunately, as you mentioned, we have two of those great governors with us today. The first is a governor who in his very first year in office cut or simplified more than 75% of his state's regulations and cut the administrative code by 20%. Would you all join me in welcoming Idaho's great governor, Brad Little, to tell us Idaho's story of deregulation.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Mr. President, it's a great honor to be here. As the Vice President alluded to, our route to rebound is dependent upon the red truck, not the blue truck. What we did in Idaho, where we had the third lowest unemployment, the third fastest income growth of any of the states, particularly for those at the lower end of the income, was to match up with your regulatory reform and make more opportunities available. Whether it be the spouse of a military veteran that came there that wanted to have their license and their home state transferred, which today I can proudly say takes us 1/2 day to get that done so that those people can be there. Right. Whether it's a small business that wants to break through and remove the regulatory friction that existed there before. But as this economy changes as a result of what's taken place, you have to free up all Americans to have that freedom to create a new opportunity. One of the things that we did that we heard about from the good doctor was telehealth. Between CMS, the department, and what we did in Idaho, we increased telehealth availability in Idaho by 4,000%. Idaho is a rural state. Idaho is a state where accessibility and the cost of health care is always an issue. It's the combination and the teamwork of your administration and what we've done that made that available to where we will rebound in Idaho, and thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Brad. Thank you. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Governor Little. And finally, Mr. President, allow me to introduce a governor who told us in December when you kicked off the governor's initiative on regulatory innovation that in his first year in office, his administration modified or rolled back 239 different regulations in over 100 professions. He is making sure that Alaska is open for business and prospering with less taxes and less regulation. Join me in welcoming Alaska's great governor, Mike Dunleavy.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, and thank you, Mr. President, for having us here today. What you've done here for us, for governors and the people of this great country, and Alaska, we are a part of the great country, by the way, Mr. President. You know that.
You are.
The President has been up in our state. We've met at least 8 times, and when he stops over in Anchorage, Alaska, on his trips, he always wants to meet, and the first thing he says is, can we meet the troops, and what do you need in the state of Alaska? This is a small state population-wise, way up north, but this President sees the importance of that state and its people. This is really about hope, Mr. President, restoring hope and opportunity. And this is what you've done. This is really about the art of the possibility. As a previous Governor Little said, this is what you've done is historic, and it's going to continue to be historic. In Alaska, for example, we have communities that are 500, 600 miles off the road system. The telehealth regulations that have been put in place now are not only going to be good for medicine, but they're going to save lives as a result of the work that you and your team have done. We look at our resource development. We look at businesses, small and big, and you've renewed hope that it is possible to achieve the American dream. These regulations over the past 40 years have really, in many respects, killed the American dream. As you said, strangled the American dream. And in the end, really what this comes down to is how does it impact the individual American, the individual Alaskan in my case. And I want to tell you, what you've done is when the landowner goes and decides that they want to do a little landscaping on their property, do they have to look over their shoulder and wonder if big government is watching them? Can they do what they need to do on their private property? You've restored the hope that they can realize the American dream. And this goes for our corporations, this goes for our entities, our nonprofit entities, this goes for our native corporations in Alaska. What you've done is restore hope and opportunity, and we're looking forward to more years of this opportunity, Mr. President. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you. So we have many exciting things that we'll be announcing over the next 8 weeks, I would say. Things that nobody has even contemplated, thought about, thought possible, and things that we're going to get done, and we have gotten done. We've started in most cases, but it's going to be a very exciting 8 weeks. 8 weeks, like I think, Mike, we can honestly say nobody's ever going to see 8 weeks like we're going to have. Because we really have. We're taking on immigration, taking on education. We're taking on so many aspects of things that people were hopelessly tied up in knots in Congress. They've been working on some of these things for 25, 30 years. Wasn't happening. But you'll see levels of detail, and you'll see levels of thought that a lot of people believed very strongly we didn't have in this country. We're going to get things done. We're going to get things done that they've wanted to see done for a long, long time. So I think we'll start sometime on Tuesday. We'll be discussing our one plan on suburbia, but that's one of many, many different plans. Then we're going into the immigration, the world of immigration, the world of education. We're going into the world of healthcare. Very complete health care, and we have a lot of very exciting things to discuss. But cutting of regulation has been really something that I felt we could do, and we could do fairly easily. Nothing's easy in this country. We had statutory requirements where we'd do phase 1 and then we'd have to wait 90 days. We'd do phase 2 and we'd have to wait 60 days. We'd do phase 3 and we said, let's do phase 4. Sir, I'm sorry, you have to wait 1 year. But we were able to do things that nobody has ever been able to do, or even close, on deregulation. And these trucks, this really is a great little example. I don't know who thought of this idea, but it's actually quite simple and quite good. Is that Brooke? Quite simple and quite good. I don't love having that big sucker hanging over my head. I want to get out of here as fast as possible. But I do want to thank you all. Incredible people. You've done an incredible job. And to the speakers, please, thank you very much. Great job. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Brett.